Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska, and this is the news. Day 226 of the war in Ukraine. In order to fill the gaps in the Russian army, criminals are brought to the front straight from their cells. In addition, the commanders of the new units will be officers of the Russian law enforcement agencies. In Donetsk, one of the mercenaries of the Russian Wagner Group shot a lieutenant colonel of his own army. According to U.S. President Joe Biden, Russian aggression against Ukraine has led to an escalation of tensions between Moscow and the Western world. Therefore, the probability of a nuclear conflict breaking out is comparable to the threat of the Cold War. We haven't faced the prospect of an apocalypse since Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis. Putin is a man I know well. He is not kidding when he talks about using tactical nuclear weapons, biological or chemical weapons. Putin's threat is real because his military is, so to speak, ineffective. There is no such thing as an easy use of tactical weapons. It will end in Armageddon. The threat is also posed by Russian missile attacks on the nuclear power plant in the Enerhodar, which could lead to a nuclear catastrophe. For several days now, the Kremlin has been trying to connect the facility to the Russian power grid.
This is a matter that has to do with international law. We are here in a conflict. We are here in a war. We want this war to stop. The war should stop immediately. And of course, the position of the IAEA is that this facility is a Ukrainian facility. But I don't get into comments about military developments.
According to Volodymyr Zelensky, the risk of damaging the nuclear power plant is high. The president of Ukraine also believes that Russia is a threat to world peace and that it must be stopped until it is too late. If the Zaporizhzhia power plant does not work, we cannot generate excess electricity. Therefore, the European Union countries are losing one of their existing sources of supply in this way. International sanctions against Russia are bringing tangible results. Experts predict that Russia's GDP in 2023 will shrink by 15%. Meanwhile, the Kremlin plans to increase taxes on exporters of raw materials from next year. The increase in customs duties and new taxes will give Moscow a profit of 1.5 trillion rubles. It is important to understand that the pressures of sanctions on Russia will only increase. Therefore, we need effective methods of operation that can be dynamically implemented. The Wagner Group, a private military company linked to Russian intelligence, is known for mobilizing criminals with a particularly brutal past. Today, the organization has set up its own Telegram channel, encouraging volunteers to recruit in the frightening words, "We came from hell. We are Wagner. Our business is death, and this business is going well."
Вы об этом знаете.
Someone in the Kremlin has decided to send you to certain death. Now you don't want to hear it because if you listened, you'd agree with me. Who will you be after this war for your children and grandchildren when they discover the truth? You will be remembered as thieves, rapists, and murderers. Maybe that's why Vladimir Putin is hiding in the bunker instead of marching next to you. We guarantee safety and justice to all who refuse to fight.
Никого не освобождайте.
Meanwhile, Russian officials frantically search for ways to finance the war. The Kremlin expects that the activities of the mobilized units will be financed from modest regional budgets. There is no equipment at the front. On the other hand, Russian soldiers ration food because they obtain provisions from their own resources. Someone got a call? Yes, our relative. I'm just telling you not to come here under any circumstances. Flee to another country. Something terrible is happening at the border with Georgia. People run away. Look for any solution, as long as they do not send him to the front. Maybe we'll try with a history of illnesses. He has a weak heart and liver. How are you? They are totally crazy. What they do, I won't go into details. There are many injured. Each day, they were taking away piles of at least 12 bodies. Ukrainian forces are constantly taking over Russian military equipment. Ukraine captured at least 440 Russian tanks and about 650 armored vehicles, which now make up more than half of Ukraine's armored forces. During the last 24 hours, the Russians carried out 8 missile strikes and 15 airstrikes on civilian facilities in Ukraine. The attacks damaged infrastructure in 25 localities. Divisions between European Union leaders over capping gas prices and national rescue packages resurfaced earlier today as officials met at Prague Castle for an informal summit of the European Council to discuss how best to deal with a winter energy crunch caused by Russia's war in Ukraine. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki participated in the summit.
My message to Germany is be united with, be solidar with all the others, because during difficult times everybody has to agree on common denominator and not this denominator which is suitable only to one country.
Speaking at the opening of the informal summit of the European Council yesterday, Morawiecki said the European energy policy must not be dictated by Germany, but must serve the interests of all countries. 27 member states of the European Union and 17 other countries, including several waiting to join the bloc and the only one ever to leave it, the United Kingdom, discuss the new geopolitical context.
A price cap on gas if that could be achieved, would be grand, with the caveat that we cannot endanger security of supply. So we cannot set the price so that no one would sell gas into Europe. But if on a European level it could be arranged so that it would keep the gas flowing but keep the prices lower, this is the goal.
During the summit, support for Ukraine was also discussed among the EU leaders.
First of all, we have to build very credible deterrence that Kremlin's regime does not want to test our ability to respond. So deterrence, and once more deterrence. And we have to be strong and not to let us manipulate, because the Kremlin's regime is very good at that.
I will ask the leaders to support the proposal for a new tranche for the European Peace Facility to continue providing military support to Ukraine, also to the training mission. I hope that for the next Foreign Affairs Council we will have a proposal on both things.
European energy prices have soared to record levels in recent months, driven by Russia slashing gas supplies to Europe following its invasion of Ukraine.
Because there is a huge pressure on the households, on the families, on the businesses, and for the economic development within the EU, this is fundamental to be able to resolve this fundamental question. We do not have right to lose time. This is not an option to lose time, and we need to decide as soon as possible.
I have proposed in the March communication already the discussion about a wholesale cap. At that time it did not get traction, but now we are better prepared. The situation has evolved, and therefore member states are willing to discuss now the price caps. As I said, the where and the how will be discussed. So I'm confident that we will come to a good conclusion.
15 EU states want a price cap on gas, but do not agree on the details of how it should be done. Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands oppose any cap, worried that it would make it difficult to buy the gas they need to keep their economies running and dampen any incentive to reduce consumption. The 2022 Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to Alexander Bialatsky of Belarus and also to two organizations, the Russian Memorial and the Ukrainian Center for Civil Liberties, documenting the crimes of Russian invaders. Bialatsky was taken to a penal colony in 2011. The basis for their arrest was information that the Polish General Prosecutor's Office provided to Minsk during the PO-PSL government. Bialatsky was detained last year in a new crackdown on opponents of Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko on charges of tax evasion, seen as politically motivated by organizations such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. He had previously been in prison from November 2011 until June 2014, also for tax evasion. Nobel Peace Prize Committee Chair Berit Reiss-Andersen called on Belarus to release Bialatsky from prison. I was summoned and it was very quick, within an hour. I packed my things, they put me into an ambulance, drove me to a train station, put me on a suburban train and let me go. Nothing can be achieved or gained by doing nothing. If we want our life to be easier, if we want to get out of this swamp where Belarus has been permanently sitting in for the last 20 years, and recently there was this so-called anniversary. We must be active and not be afraid of repressions and pressure, which is being put on all our people, and every person in particular. The award, the first peace prize since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, has echoes of the Cold War era, when prominent Soviet dissidents such as Andrei Sakharov and Alexander Solzhenitsyn won Nobels for peace or literature. It will be seen by many as a condemnation of Putin and Lukashenko, making it one of the most politically contentious in decades. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please stay tuned for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and some of our other programs. But for me, it's have a wonderful weekend.